So, my testimony is that growing up, my dad was very um, abusive when he was drinking. When he wasn't, he was a pretty good guy to be around. But when he started drinking, his anger just like would come out of nowhere. And so for me, I would jump at the chance of whoever would take me to church to go to church. But that doesn't make you a church kid, especially when you don't actually understand why these people come here every week, multiple times a day, multiple times a week. I just went to get away from being at home. As a result, I knew things, but I didn't fully understand them. And we'll talk about later how missing by 12 inches between your head and your heart, it it's a big deal. You don't ever want to miss by 12 inches when it comes to something like where you're going to spend eternity. And so I knew a lot of things, but I didn't understand all the things that they were trying to tell me. Because while the teachers and the pastor's wife and the pastor did their best, I didn't have anybody at home coming alongside me and showing me what it is that this means. I didn't ask a lot of questions because doing so in my house would get you whipped or worse. And so, not to mention, my mom also probably didn't understand a lot of things either. And so, um, when I say that, I mean things about God. Um, my mom always taught me that as long as you know better, watching whatever it is we were watching on TV, which a lot of times would be Harry Potter, Charmed, Halloween Town, all the things into the mysticals and the vampires. I was a twihard. I was very big into Harry Potter, but it was never more than just a story to me. And I knew that a lot of people took those things a lot more serious than what it is. Are the spells in Harry Potter real? Yes, they are. Did J.K. Rowling come out and say that in an interview for God and everybody? Yes, she did. She said that they would get darker and darker as the stories go on, and they do. Um, Twilight, same thing. Do I think vampires probably really exist? Yes, I do. I think they're in the form of demons. And there's a lot of things that go on, but because, oh, it's not real. It's not real. It's fine. We just kind of blow it off without actually understanding the ramifications of allowing it into our house. And so growing up, that's what we did. It's not real. It's fine. Whatever. And I was always that kid that told the other kid with a strict Christian parent that, oh, your parents don't know any better. Yeah, I was that kid. You're an adult now. You need to be your own you need to live your own life. And I was not a very, like, my attitude, I was very angry, very angry. Um, and I didn't fully understand it, but everything was cause for a fight. Everything was fighting words to me, and everything was very, very serious. Um, and so when when I met Matt, my husband, or to be husband at the time, I was not saved. I knew of God. I liked going to church. That's just kind of something that we did. That I did. He didn't, he was a church kid. That's just something that was a normal routine for him. He was also saved at the time that we met, and oddly enough, we met at McDonald's. And so he would tell me that I can't do that because dot dot dot, or my parents won't let me dot dot dot. And so he grew up kind of sheltered. Was it really sheltered? No, not really. Um, One day I'd like for somebody to accuse me of sheltering my children. But at the end of the day, that's what I did. I'm like, Matt, your parents don't know nothing. Yeah, they knew a lot. Um, and so I was that kid that not made fun of, was very disrespectful to parents like that because it's no fun. And so when Matt and I got together, at first we were just kind of like talking. And I had a testimony of salvation with, like I said, it was an experience, but it was 12. I was missing the mark by 12 inches. And it was a head knowledge, but it wasn't a heart knowledge. And yeah, there's a big difference between the two. And so, he invited me to his church with his family and his friends. And I said, sure, let's go. And so I met him there, and, it was fun. It was cordial, you know. And so I going along fat, dumb, and happy. And then some things that I don't fully understand. Matt and I were being accused of being together. Well, we weren't together yet, but it was headed that way, and some drama happened between him and his parents and between him and his church, and he actually got put on church discipline over it. Now, were they right in doing so? I think it might have been a little premature, but yeah, it was probably going to be needed to be happening. But when that happened, he moved out of his parents' house and he ended up moving in with me and my family. Because other than that, he was going to be living in his car or his grandparents or something like that. And my mom's like, no, just come here. And, things progressed more than they should have. And his pastor, his family friends, his family would call him up and be like, hey, Matt, you know better than this. And his pastor actually said a lot of things about me that I didn't like. Were they true? Mm-hmm. Totally. But I didn't like it. Nobody wants to hear the things that they don't want to hear. That didn't make it right. And his cousin sent Matt a text message, and I responded to that for him. Oops. I still regret that. And so, like, I was not leading my husband down a good path. I was dragging him down with me. And time goes on, we get married, and then, his parents didn't come to our wedding because he was still on church discipline and he was still very much in rebellion to his parents. I think, actually, I know they do regret that kind of, whether that regret would change what they would do, I don't know. That's their personal business. But it is something that I deeply regret about it as well, is because that really hurt my husband, like bad. And it caused a lot of damage between his family and him that I never intended to cause, but I did. And so he proposed on Valentine's Day. It was really cute. And then we were married that August. And a few months later, we realized that, we're going to have a baby, and I want to say that was around end of September. No, early October, we found out I was pregnant. But at the end of September, because I was 18, I could go on what they call the youth hunt around here, which is where everybody in their teens, so 18 and under, gets to go hunting without a pass for free before anybody else gets out there. And so Matt took me over to his family's woods and he took me hunting. And it also just so happens to be the church that his family attended. They were having their yearly church picnic at this little cute place called Canaanland. And it caters specifically to churches. And because it's privately owned, they can do what they want with their property. And so we went and I met this lady. Her name is Janelle Swank. And her and I kind of like hit it off, and they invited us back to their hotel to kind of hang out because they were in town for the area. He was going to be preaching at Grace the next day, and Matt was kind of playing around with the idea of going. And so Janelle's sitting there, she's talking to me, and I'm listening, and I'm like, the first half of her testimony sounds a lot like me. Sounds a lot like the things that I do. I would sit in church and go, oh, he needs to hear that, and oh, she needs to hear that. And it was never, yep, God, you hit me on the face again. Get out the 2x4. Because that's what it takes in order to get my attention sometimes, is 2x4 right between the eyes. Whoop. It is what it is. I'm sure some of you can relate. And so I'm listening to it. And later, Matt and I go back to our house, and I'm talking to him, and he's kind of like, it's just one of those things, you got to figure it out, Michelle. Are you saved or are you not? And only that's something you and God can figure out. I can't tell you. And so I'm like, okay. Excuse me. And so I'm like, okay. So I go to bed, and I'm thinking about it. And the next morning, her husband, his name's Dan Swank, and he's actually a pastor up in Michigan. He is preaching the same kind of message that goes right along with what his wife was just talking to me about the night before. And the way God lines things up, I've seen it happen where somebody's talking to me. I don't say anything to my husband unless it is going to be helpful to them, whether it be to my husband or to Matt, in doing so. If it's not, then as a pastor's wife, you kind of just got to zip it. And so I highly doubt she said anything to her husband at all. And he is just hammering sin. He's hammering salvation. And I'm sitting there in the chair, because Matt's family's church didn't have chairs. Or pews, they had chairs. And I'm just kind of wanting to like shrink down and be like, and so every church usually will have an invitation, and I didn't go up there. I actually waited till after church, and I went and talked to Janelle, and she took me outside to the picnic table because it was still really nice for October, and we're talking, or no, it was still September. The last weekend of September, the weekend before the 1st, is the youth hunt. And so she's taking me outside, she's showing me scriptures, and she's like, do you believe this? Like, do you really, truly believe this and understand what it is? And not only is she just reading me the scriptures, but she's explaining it. She's making sure that I understand what it is that she's explaining to me. And I did. And I believed it. And I wanted it so bad. And so we prayed together. She prayed, and then she had me pray, because we don't believe in leading somebody through prayer. There is no perfect prayer. There is no, you have to say this in order to get that. It's, you have to go before God, confess your sins to God, ask for his mercy and his grace, and he'll give it to you. But then you have to turn around and confess Jesus to the people around you, which that's not hard either, because the Bible says, if you deny me, I'll deny you. And she walked me through John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. She walked me through that if it wasn't for the fact that Jesus died on the cross, shed his blood for you, died, rose again 3 days later, we couldn't be saved at all. We'd be hopeless and hellbound. And so she's walking me all through this, and I'm realizing that my sins caused his scars, and that even if it was for just me, he still would have died, because he loves you that much. And so we both prayed. She prayed, then I prayed. And then she looked at me and goes, now you need to go tell Matt and Pastor Roberts. And I looked at her and I go, that man hates me. She's like, that's kind of the point. He doesn't hate you. Yes, you professed to be saved before, but nobody's going to look at you cross-eyed because of it. They're going to rejoice with you because you got it settled. And she was right. And I have not met a saved person yet that has looked down their nose at somebody that claimed to be saved, realized their need of a savior, and then truly got saved. It just doesn't happen, but it's something that the devil uses to keep you from getting saved or even being usable by God. You know, little by little over the years, I've changed for the good. Like I said, shortly after that, we found out that I was pregnant with Matthew, that, um, you know, then we started attending church over at a different church, and then we moved over to where his parents were at and reconciled with them that way. Are there still people that I need to apologize to? Yes, there is. I have a list of people that I need to talk to, and my husband is helping me facilitate getting a chance to talk to them, because the things that I did wasn't done out on Facebook in front of God and everybody. It happened behind closed doors, and therefore I need to go to those people privately. Now, if I'd have been blasting them on Facebook, then yeah, I needed to go to them privately and on Facebook. But as it was just conversations that me and Matt had had. And so there are people that I need to talk to, and one at a time, my husband is helping me facilitate that. Now, how much time has gone by between that versus when I'm actually getting things taken care of? And to answer that question, it's taken God 15 years to get me to do it. Because when I first got saved, I didn't understand why what I did was wrong. And by the time I did, it had all like gone out of my head. And then I'm hearing this person talk to me about this girl and the things that she's doing, and it's breaking my heart because I was a lot like her. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, yep, this sounds familiar, and it's breaking my heart. And so this is why I wrote this letter to her to begin with. And I was talking to this lady about it, and I'm like, there's people in Matt's life that tried to get him to turn around and wasn't nice to him, like, at all. And then it hit me, yeah, you never actually apologized to them for that. And so I'm sitting there in my car. I was at lunch with her. And I'm like, yeah, I need to do that. A couple days later, I looked at Matt and I go, honey, I need to talk to such and such, and I need you to help get it set up to where it's either just you, me, and him, or his wife, him, me, and you. And I really need to talk to him. And he looks at me and goes, why? And I told him. And he goes, I thought you did apologize for that. And I look at him and I said, no, I didn't. I tap danced my way right around that. Why? Well, back when you and your mom were trying to tell me that I needed to apologize to him, didn't think I did anything wrong. Didn't think I needed to apologize for it. And he goes, okay, we'll work it out, and I knew he was fixing to come preach a revival meeting at our church, but I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work out. You know, And so God set it up before the meeting ever started. God set it up, you know. And so I want to encourage you today, if there is something that's stopping you from allowing Jesus into your heart to save you, but you're like, I'm a terrible person. So was I. So was a lot of people that I walk in my circle with. The difference is we don't regret giving it to God and letting him take care of it. The things that the lost see as rules that bind are actually the things that are freeing the most. You know, and we'll talk about more what that means, but you know, it's not just a religion of don'ts. It's a lot of freedom in it. And I hope that, if you're listening to it, that you either find it or you have it, and I will continue to pray for that. So I'm going to get off here. My children are starting to go hog wild. So I'm going to let you go, and you guys have a good day. Thank you. Bye.